there's one thing we learned from Syracuse's blowout win over Colgate, it's if you want to throw a football, you commit to Central New York. Quarterback Steve Angeli leads the nation with 1,072 passing yards heading into SU's ACC opener. But the wounded giant of Clemson awaits them in Death Valley, the same Memorial Stadium where Syracuse blew a 14-point lead in 2022 thanks to a freshman named Cade Klubnik. Can the Orange capitalize on the Tigers' recent woes, or will Dabo Swinney and company find their mojo? Let's break it all down. It's Cuse Countdown, and it starts right now. Hi everyone, welcome inside our CitrusTV studios for Cuse Countdown. Alongside Drew Albaugh and Dan Shalam, I'm Nicholas Waley, here to break down the ACC opener for Syracuse football, going up against a Clemson team that is looking a little bit on the weaker side, 1-2, just coming off a big loss to Georgia Tech. But let's focus on Syracuse first, who themselves are coming off a big win over an FCS Colgate team, 66-24 last week. Drew, I want to start with you. What does this win actually mean for Syracuse in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, it doesn't mean a whole lot from a team perspective, but it does mean a lot for individual players. I'm more confident in Steve Angeli. Hey, heck, Samuel Jr., he looked pretty good, an interception and a touchdown. But as a team perspective, you beat Colgate. Great.
I think it's a morale booster here. I mean, Drew, you look at the schedule so far, Syracuse hasn't had a chance to build any momentum whatsoever. This win did exactly that for them. You build up Steve Angeli's confidence, you get Demetrius Samuel into the mix, and really everybody's feeling themselves. The defense, not amazing, but you can still take away positives. For me, I think this was really a win that Syracuse can build on heading into Saturday.
And Darryl Gill Jr. established himself in my eyes as the wide receiver one for Syracuse, taking out at halftime 152 yards with a couple of touchdowns. How about that?
And Steve Angeli really has been the mastermind, at least in the last game and a quarter, really. It was really hard to watch against UConn in the first three quarters, but since then, he has been lights out, over 1,000 receiving yards on the season, 5 throwing touchdowns, I should say, against Colgate. He's really stepped up to the plate. And Dan, I think it's only been positive though since.
Certainly, but I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here, but I don't really know how much stock I buy into this performance from Steve Angeli, given it's Colgate. I know it just said it is a momentum booster, and I still believe that. But for Angeli, I really think that we saw what he's going to be against Tennessee, and I think he might be the same against Clemson come Saturday, because the two opponents in the middle here just have not been up to the skill level that the Volunteers were at. I'm a slightly bit worried. I know he leads the nation in passing yards, and that's all great and fun, but he needs to go and prove it on Saturday.
All great and fun? Almost 1,100 passing yards. This guy has only gotten better since that UConn game. Ties QBs Jim Brown and Eric Dungy for touchdowns in a single game in school history, running back Jim Brown and Eric Dungy. With 6 touchdowns, 5 passing, you got 1 rushing touchdown on your belt. I understand everything's with a grain of salt. Oh, it's against Colgate. Great. He was playing against Colgate, and he played great.
I think we're going to say that a lot throughout this show, Drew.
Well, there was another quarterback that suited up for Syracuse and did get a couple drives in, and that was Ricky Collins, who we kind of expected could have been QB1 going into the season, but then Steve Angeli transferred from Notre Dame. The writing was a little bit on the wall, Drew, and we didn't really see a lot of Ricky, but I think it's the fair question to ask, is this his last appearance for Syracuse this season?
He's the backup quarterback for Syracuse. Plain and simple, the battle is over. Whatever you want to take away from it, Steve Angeli is the QB1 for this Syracuse team. Ricky Collins gets his chance. He was made in the shade. You come on in against an FCS team in Colgate, and what do? First drive, you throw a huge incompletion to nobody, and then you throw an interception to not nobody. How about make it even worse? It's an interception the other way. I understand he looked better after that, but this is not a QB battle, Dan.
I don't want to see him again on the field unless Syracuse has to use him. I was not confident in Ricky Collins, and Steve Angeli's clearly the guy for SU.
I think there's one guy that you definitely want to see on the field, and that's Demetrius Samuel. We talked a lot last year about Travis Hunter being that really revolutionizing the two-way player role, and Dan, this guy at 17 years of age looks like the real deal.
He certainly does, and that Colgate game is giving him that experience that he needs. Now, once again, I am a little bit concerned because if I'm Clemson going into this game, I am targeting Demetrius Samuel on the offensive side all day long. Brian Lesko, I think, is going to tear him up. However, he needs to experience these games and get this experience. He has the potential to be there, Drew. I just still think it's going to take a little bit of time. This guy's 17.
An interception and a reception against Colgate. 17 years old. He turns 18 in April. He went on a record back in the springtime when he was practically 16 and said, high school football is too easy for me. So he skipped his senior year and came over and now is playing at Syracuse as a 17-year-old. This kid could do practically anything, and it's a positive in my mind.
I totally agree with you. It's just a matter of time and if he's going to succeed this Saturday.
Sure.
Well, he wanted a challenge and is going to get us, particularly this season. It's a Syracuse schedule that is quite tumultuous. It is ranked as the 5th hardest schedule of any team at the FBS level. And when you look at the rest of the schedule, 8 of the 9 are ACC play, but one of those is against Notre Dame. I mean, Drew, it doesn't get much easier for the Orange.
Not at all. It gets a little bit easier against Clemson in my eyes from what you look at week 1, what you thought it was going to be. What you thought it was going to be, a number 4 team at the start of the season, unranked at this point. But yeah, this Syracuse schedule, absolutely brutal. You look up and down, what's a given win for Syracuse? I don't see one.
I see a couple here. I think you can beat Pittsburgh. Given win, I think Pittsburgh. I think Boston College. And sneaky, I think
those
Syracuse
are coin tosses.
Can take the game over there in SMU. Now, outside of that, no way they compete against Miami or Notre Dame. I think you can chalk that. However, Georgia Tech, once again, I think will be competitive. We saw what happened last year when Georgia Tech was ranked and played Syracuse.
That's true. I just don't see a win that I can look at that schedule and say, that's a guaranteed W for SU, and that really concerns me.
Do you think they'll be even bowl eligible then?
I don't think they're getting to 6 wins. No.
Well, the cover for, at least at the beginning of the season, the future bet was 6.5 wins for the Orange.
It's a good line.
Did you take that bet?
I didn't take the bet.
I would take it. I would take it
It's
right
there.
now still if I could.
Over?
Over.
All right. Under.
I'll take the over as well. Well, when we come back, it's time to get back to the classroom. Dan and Drew, I hope you guys are ready for some grades. When we come back, we're going to do Countdown Classroom, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back inside our CitrusTV studios. Drew Albaugh and Dan Shalam with us. It's time for Countdown Classroom. I hope you two are ready to give your grades because Professor Waley is back in the house. And here's the deal. I'm going to give you guys just some prompts about the Syracuse football team, and you guys are just going to grade on what you think they deserve, basically.
Sounds good.
So basically off the top, first is the receiving room. Drew, I want to start with you. It has been pretty impressive, especially over the last, 2.5 games, or maybe 1.5 games for Syracuse. Really impressive in that fourth quarter against UConn and against Colgate. What is your overall grade for these Syracuse receivers?
B+. 15 different pass catchers for the Orange. When you look at it, you're going back to last season, lost so much talent. Number 1, Oronde Gadsden. And who's coming in? It's Mr. Dan Villari, and he's been absolutely wonderful. 199 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Dan Villari's been that guy for Syracuse stepping in for Gadsden, but it hasn't just been him. You'll look around. Daryl Gills played excellent. There's a numerous amount of guys you can look and say, that guy's played well, and I know it's a lot against Colgate, but still, I'm going with a B+.
I'm going to disagree with you here, Drew. I do not think that Syracuse has a guy yet because Daryl Gill's breakout performance was once again against Colgate. Where's Jonte Cook been? This guy was supposed to
over
be
100 yards.
The replacement for Jackson Meeks, right? He's basically done nothing. He only has 1 touchdown. That's why I'm giving this receiving corps a C so far. I think a couple of standout performances at Clemson could definitely change that. But as of right now, I still feel like there's a long way to go. Dan Villari's not playing up to the standard that Oronde Gadsden was last year. And, I mean, this is such a pass-heavy offense that Syracuse needs one guy, really 2, to jumpstart them and get them going.
Because of who the Cuse lost last year, you have to put that into context. And Syracuse has done a pretty good job in my mind.
We talked a lot about offense. I think it's time we talk a little bit of defense, especially considering Syracuse gave up 24 points to Colgate. I mean, this is a little bit of a concern, especially that front 7. Dan, I want to go to you. What has been your grade of this front 7 through the first 3 games?
I actually think that the front 7 has gotten better game by game, and that's why I'm not really going to be that harsh on them so far. I'm going to give you a B- for the front 7 because if you look at the way that they've stopped the rush, it has gotten progressively better every single game so far for Syracuse. Only let up 100 yards to Colgate, and this really plays into the Orange's hand here when they go up against Clemson because this is a squad that has not established the run whatsoever so far. They only have 115 yards on the ground a game. That's where Syracuse can really force Clemson to pass and then hopefully cover up the Clemson receivers.
You say they've gotten better every single game. Maybe it's because Syracuse played Tennessee, then they played UConn, and then way out of frame they played Colgate. Maybe that's the reason why they've gotten better, because this team has generated just 3 sacks. 3 sacks, that's second to last in the ACC. This front 7 has been atrocious for a lack of a better word. Now that doesn't mean they can't get better. There's a lot of guys you can look at and say, this guy needs to get better. Dennis Jacquez Jr., David Reese, George Rooks. It is a D.
A D?
D.
Really? You think it's that bad?
Yeah.
I mean, Syracuse has
3
not gotten
sacks,
burned
Dan.
running-wise, and to be honest with you, I really don't think that they've done that bad of a job so far, Drew. They're putting Clemson into a corner this weekend on what their offense can do.
How many points did you predict Clemson to score?
35, because they're going to burn them on the pass game, but that's because they don't have any real safeties.
A D is a little harsh. I think it's a little harsh. That's not even a passing grade.
It's hard to take you serious with the glasses. Can I put that out there? Professor Waley over here.
Look, all right, we got one more for you, and it's a bit of a broader one. It's play calling. This is a coaching staff that is still relatively new in their 2nd season. Jeff Nixon, Elijah Robertson, of course, Fran Brown at the helm. Drew, I'm going to go to you first. What's your overall grade on the play calling of this Syracuse team so far?
I'm going to go with a C, and it's for the simple reason I want Syracuse to pass the ball a little bit more. This team has been really pass heavy. Against UConn, Steve Angeli threw the ball 53 times. That's not going to cut it, and it got it done against UConn. It's not going to get it done this Saturday against Clemson. You got to run the ball more. You got to put the ball into Yasin Willis's hands, Nixon's hands. That's the way you generate offense. This is not Kyle McCord. You can't put the ball into Steve Angeli's 50-plus time.
You can't tell me it's not Kyle McCord when Steve Angeli leads the nation in passing yards. I mean, that is Kyle McCord. And that's why I think that this play calling has been great so far. You turn back to the Colgate game, and this is a squad that on first down, when they passed, 13 yards per play. I think that's pretty impressive. That's why, in my opinion, they get a B+. And you can't run the ball right now. Yasin Willis is not healthy, and Will Nixon is not up to that standard. That's why pass heavy is the way to go. It's worked for Syracuse, and they had a couple of deep balls. I think 4 of 25+ last week against Colgate. It shows it's working.
Willis was in the game against UConn, and he barely touched the ball, Dan. So I understand.
Go back to Tennessee. He tore it up against a big Power 4 school.
He looked pretty good. You know, had a trio of touchdowns, so I'll give you that, Dan. We'll have to see. It's been really do you not want a balanced offense?
I'd rather have a pass-heavy offense
Really?
unless Yasin Wills is healthy.
But the pass catchers aren't good for Syracuse?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll have to see.
It's arguably Syracuse's most lethal attacking option at the moment. And it's not just any Power 4 school. It was an SEC school, a Tennessee team that is just as big, if not bigger, than this Clemson team that Syracuse are going up against this weekend. And we're going to talk all about the Tigers coming up after this break. The Clemson Tigers, we talked a little bit about how they've been on the downward slide. It hasn't been a great start to the season for them, but can they overcome the orange? Don't go anywhere. Cuse Countdown is back after this break.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
We are back inside our CitrusTV studios alongside Dan Shalam, Drew Albaugh. I'm Nicholas Waley. Time to talk about Clemson. This is a team that had huge expectations going into this season. We're ranked number 4 in the AP preseason poll, but hasn't really gone their way so far. This is what head coach Dabo Swinney had to say in his pregame presser.
There's nothing to square up other than we are not where we work to be. We're not where we expected to be. And we got to own that. I got to own that. But again, it's not all bad either. I mean, ultimately the results are what count. We all know that. But we got a long season ahead.
And the results have not been good enough for a Clemson team that had national championship aspirations. Like I mentioned, we're ranked number 4 going into the season. Not even ranked now going into week 4. Drew, let me go to you first. Why has this happened to this Clemson team?
Clemson's like that shiny toy the nation got a hold of at the start of the year, and they simply haven't performed. And that is the main reason why Clemson is in their spot right now. Against an LSU team, you play them close, but the problems really come against Troy, where you win by just 11 points, then you take on Georgia Tech, and that was written in the stars in my opinion. Haynes King came in, he played really well, over 100 yards running, he couldn't stop him. Clemson is not a top 5 team. The consensus thought they were going to be. It's tough. It's tough. Against a Syracuse team this week, I think it's going to be a closer game.
I really don't think that this team is really that bad. If you look at it, they haven't been getting blown out in all of these games. Their roster is plenty talented. Let's also not forget that last year, Clemson lost 3 games, won the ACC, and also made it to the college football playoff, and one of those losses came in week 1 to Georgia. So there's plenty of time left for this team to find it.
Georgia Tech is not Georgia, though.
That is true, but they also lost to Louisville last year in the regular season.
That's a good point.
But Georgia Tech have Haynes King, and he has been an animal for Georgia Tech and really proved it against the Tigers. This was a really fascinating game, especially the fact it went right down to the wire, a walk-off field goal, and it was one of those really teasing field goal kicks. Dan, was this more Georgia Tech being just the better team on the day, or is Clemson really that bad?
I think it was just Georgia Tech being better. We have to remember here that this Clemson offense has just not gotten going yet. Clayton Klubnik only had 200 yards. They had less than 150 yards on the ground. This is a squad that is plenty talented, and they're going to get themselves going. You also got to remember, too, heading into this week for Syracuse, it's not like Steve Angeli is Haynes King who's going to run it on the ground. Syracuse does not really have a ground option to go to, and that's why I think Clemson can box them in and dominate them offensively.
And that's a great point. Haynes King is the reason why Georgia Tech won the game. Steve Angeli is not Haynes King. And Cade Klubnik's been not great this year. 59% pass completion. That's his worst of his career.
And Cade Klubnik going into this season was a top 3 Heisman candidate, was plus 900. It was the 3rd best odds to win the Heisman. Now he's not even on the list. Drew, I'm going to go to you. What has been the problem with Cade Klubnik in the first 3 games of the season?
The problem has been he hasn't been that dual threat quarterback that he's really made his living off of. This is a Cade Klubnik that averaged 4 yards on the ground per carry last season. Now half that. Make it 2. Senioritis? It's a pretty good way to describe it. You know, you talk about a sophomore slump. Cade Klubnik's having a senior slump, kind of unheard of. Klubnik's got to figure it out if this Clemson team wants to get rolling, which is entirely possible, Dan.
Well, I think that really the problem for Cade Klubnik is that he just hasn't had that passing offense that made him so good last year. You mentioned the legs, but it's not even like he's completing passes through the air either. I'm kind of giving Clemson a 3-strike policy here. Klubnik only had 3 games last year where he threw for under 210 yards. He's done that twice this year. Clemson also lost 3 times last year, and they were still fine. So I still think that Klubnik can be the guy. We got to remember, he was in the Heisman conversation at the beginning of the year.
And if there's one positive, though, for this Clemson team, it is defense. They have been absolutely stellar, really, over the first few games of the season. Really the brightest spark for this Tigers team. And it's something that Syracuse head coach Fran Brown also pointed out in his press conference. Take a listen.
Clemson D-line?
Clemson's D-line.
They nice. They good. Like, they're really good. I mean, I can't wait to play against them, though, just to see where we are. Our offensive line going to compete their butts off, but they nice.
Well, so Fran Brown likes the defensive line of the Clemson Tigers quite a lot. But, Dan, how good is this Clemson defense and specifically the D-line?
They really haven't gotten going this season is the scary part here for Syracuse. Sacks-wise, they only had 3 against Georgia Tech, so I am worried heading into this game if I am an Orange fan because Syracuse's offensive line is nothing to write home about. We saw how they got dominated against Tennessee in the opener. So for me, I really think that they're going to have to get the ball out quickly or else Angeli is going to be sacked in the backfield.
A preseason best defensive line in the ACC according to PFF with a pair of top 10 draft picks on that D-line in Peter Woods and edge TJ Parker, who, by the way, had 11 sacks last year, just 1 this year. Those types of guys, TJ Parker, Ronan Happen, and Wade Woodaz needs to get things going. This is a Clemson defense that right now has a lot of work to do, and they certainly can get there.
Well, the Clemson defense certainly will be a tough task for one of our marquee matchups for this week. Both Syracuse and Clemson really have some elite weapons in their receiving rooms. And Drew and Dan, who are the 2 that stick out to you two?
Thanks so much, Nick. Our marquee matchup is between a couple of receivers, Dan. Daryl Gill Jr., and who's your guy?
Brian Wesco Jr.
All right, let's roll the tape on my guy, the better junior of the 2. Daryl Gill Jr. lined up on the outside. Steve Angeli hucks it up, and he grabs it out of the sky. He's 6'3", almost 200 pounds, and he shows the athleticism. He shows the vert, and Steve Angeli trusts him more than anyone. Oh my goodness, I could watch that all day. Almost 200 yards of offense against Colgate in a single half. Yet again, he's on the outside lined up against a little bit better of a UConn team. Sideline defenders draped all over him, and it does not matter. He has the finesse, he has the power, and I'm going to pause it right here. We're going to watch the same play game. Look how far away the UConn DB. It's 10 yards plus, but it doesn't matter. Roll the tape yet again. The defenders are trying to push him into the middle of the field, but he sticks to his route. Steve Angeli trusts him, finds him for the tiptoe grab. Daryl Gill Jr., the difference maker for Syracuse.
Those were a couple of great plays, Drew, but let me show you a couple of better plays. We're going to start last week here for Wesco against Georgia Tech. This is just a simple throw across the middle of the field, but somehow he turns this into a touchdown. Wesco's game is speed. None of the Georgia Tech defenders can catch him. He's into the end zone for 6. Then we're going to take you to week 1 against LSU. The speed once again coming in, but his yards after catch is what makes him so special. Look, he's just keep fighting for more. He gets all the way down to the 1 here against LSU. And then the second game of the year here for Clemson. Wesco's all the way up here, and you don't even realize that he's running around. It just looks like he's jogging around the field. Klubnik does a great job disguising it in play action, and by the time he throws, he's gone into the end zone for 6. That's what makes Brian Wesco such a good receiver.
You failed to mention that play was against Troy.
Failed to mention that the Gill play was against Colgate and also
That's true.
UConn.
All right, we'll have to see what happens on Saturday.
We will,
I
and we're going to give you some predictions and a whole lot more coming right up here on CC.
For the last time tonight, we're back inside our CitrusTV studios alongside Drew Albaugh and Dan Shalam. I'm Nicholas Waley. Time to get to the nitty-gritty. It is keys and prediction time. First time for us this semester, and it's quite a big game for us, Clemson and Syracuse. Drew, I'm going to go to you. This is a huge ACC opener for Syracuse. What do they need to do to get the win over Clemson?
Syracuse needs to protect Steve and Jelly. That's the main thing the Orange need to do against a defensive line that by all accounts is the best in the ACC. This Clemson D-line is going to be all over a non-mobile quarterback in Steve Angeli. This is not a Haynes King that got the job done last week for the Yellow Jackets. Syracuse needs to protect Steve Angeli, give him some time in the pocket, and everything will work out for Syracuse.
I think Syracuse's defense is in trouble, and it's not even going to matter what the offense does. Because if you look at how the defense has fared passing-wise over the last 3 games, it started off by only giving up 245 yards to Tennessee. That's fine. You can live with that. Then you take a step up, you let up 275 to UConn, and then 300 to Colgate, Drew. That is not good, especially given that they are an FCS team. I think that Cade Klubnik is going to have his way here with Syracuse's defense, and you just saw me talk about Brian Wesco. He is so fast. I want to see Demetrius Samuel catch up to him. You know, he top speed 24.8 miles per hour.
The fact that Colgate had 300 yards, though, against Syracuse is a little bit iffy and a little bit concerning.
That's sus. I don't like that.
Before we get to your guys' predictions, let's take a look at what our colleagues did last week for Syracuse against Colgate. And, man, it was... Look, everyone got it right, and I would hope everyone got it right.
Yeah.
Particularly, though, Nate Cunningham, he had 42-14. Also, Griffin Marcy a little bit closer. He was the closest to get the overall spread for this game. I mean, come on, we got to do a little bit better, a little bit more better on the offense.
This proves to Dan's point just a little bit that the defense should have been better. All 3 of those guys, 14 points or under, 24 points against Colgate.
I think we're going to have to go after your roommate here, Drew Milo Hoffman, in first place with a 1-0 record and only a negative 3-point differential.
It's pretty good.
That is pretty good. And I don't know, I think that we can get up to him now.
All right, let's hope.
I will say it's pretty good that everybody is 1-0 on the season.
They've been
pretty
easy so
for
far.
everyone. So hopefully that stays the same today and as well going into this weekend. So first, Dan, what is your overall prediction for Syracuse against Clemson?
I think that it's going to be a 2-score loss for the Orange, 35-21 for Clemson. For a couple of reasons that I just talked about. First off, on the defense, Syracuse's D has just not looked good over the last 3 games. That's the biggest issue. And you know that Dabo Swinney in Clemson is going to target Demetrius Samuel. Going to be interesting to see if he can step up. And on the offensive side of things, this is the most hostile environment that Syracuse is going to have played in all year. I know Tennessee was the opener, but that was neutral site. This is a true road game. And I really do not think that the Orange are ready. I know Steve Angeli played with Notre Dame in the national championship, but I don't count that. This is the first true test for him.
My prediction is going to be a little bit closer than yours, Dan. 17-13. Clemson's going to take this one. I don't trust Syracuse's offense, but I also don't really trust Cade Klubnik and Clemson's offense through 3 games left in the season. Syracuse is going to keep it close. It's going to be a battle in the trenches between both sides, and Clemson's trenches are just a little bit deeper. Clemson takes it by 4.
There's some big guys on that O-line and D-line for Clemson. I'm saying 42-28 in favor of the Tigers. I'm with Dan. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. It's going to be a really interesting game, especially since Clemson are looking to bounce back from that very disappointing loss to Georgia Tech. For Dan Shalam and Drew Albaugh, I'm Nicholas Waley. And for our entire production crew, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the game, everyone.